Good morning. Trying to put it all together this morning. How are you? Let me know how you are down below in the comments. That sounded funny. Good morning. I'm Linda and from brisk Brisbane because it's a bit chilly today, but it's wonderful. It's good for us to have a winter because we have really hot, humid summers. What's happening for you? You in the Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, what's happening? We've been doing a mini-series on trauma this week, and it's been really insightful, really helpful to people, and we've had some good conversations along the way as well. Today I want to look at basically the end of trauma, but what happens for us after the traumatic event and the things that we have to process for ourselves. If you're here for the replay, pop in a hashtag replay. It's always wonderful to connect. If you have any questions, always feel welcome to ask. Often journaling after you've watched helps you because then you can connect into the next one step that you need for today, which is really good. Just one step at a time creates how many? 365 new steps that you'll have taken this time next year. So that is a fantastic thing to do. Now, here we go. And if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe so you know when the latest is posted, which is usually around the same time every day because they're after Facebook Live. So here we go today. Welcome. Now, oh, that's the wrong one. I hate it when the wrong one comes up. Let me see. No, it's still, I'm so sorry. Oh, here it is. I thought for a minute the wrong one had downloaded, but it didn't. I just had them because I put them all over social media. Right, here we go. Now, this is really important to understand because people who haven't been through trauma don't understand. So we're not going to just get over it. It's going to be a process, and for each of us the length of time of that process is going to be different as well. Coming to terms with that there is a new normal, that you're going to grow into a new normal for you, is challenging in and of itself because we get used to our life being how it was. We're human creatures of comfort, and essentially we like things when they're comfortable. Good morning, Amy. You're welcome. So we're never going to go back to the old me. That's just not possible because you've had a major event. And even if you go through divorce, okay, so trauma, we tend to think of life-altering things, which they are. So oftentimes we go, well, you know, there's mental, emotional, physical, sexual, spiritual, financial abuse, and all of those things are very traumatic. But we also need to look at things like when we lose a baby, okay, that's very traumatic, that changes us. When we have divorce, that changes us. That changes us significantly as well, that's traumatic. And even think, if you move house, I mean, that's right up there in the stress factors, and your whole life around you changes as you adapt and adjust to a new environment. And that stress can change you as a person as well, all right? And that comes down to who we are as individuals, our life's journey, how different they've been, etc., as to how traumatic that is. If you're like myself and my kids, we've moved that many times that it's the only stressful part is packing up. It's like, oh, here we go. We've got to, you know, it's good throw-out time. But then there's always the adjustment time on the other end where you've got to find new places for things. So it's not as stressful for us as it would be to somebody who'd been in the same house for 10, 20, 30 years. That's going to be a major stress for them, okay? And think about it this way. It's not just the mental, all right? It's the physical, the emotional, all right, that gets stressed. There's each part of us, and we can't just dump it in a box and go, well, yeah, it'll be right. It doesn't work like that, okay? We've got to have time to process stuff. And there won't be the same old you because you've been through a whole different experience. I think about like my grandparents' era and even my parents' era where things like this weren't talked about, they weren't known about. Heck, we didn't have Google, we didn't have information. And look, I even just ordered a book online, a workbook, and I can't even get it in Australia. So even though we've got this international global community happening, there are still some things that aren't common knowledge, and even then there are things that have progressed in knowledge. I was just reading about intrusive thoughts this morning, and that's just becoming an awareness that's coming into the psychology side of life, and they're coming to understand what intrusive thoughts are, okay? So every moment of time, you can't compare what you're going through. So please don't ever say, oh, well, that person's been through that and they're doing well and I should be like that. Like, eradicate the word should out of your vocabulary, out of your brain, because should is a comparison that you don't need, okay? It's like, okay, let's just take some time and I'm going to be a new me, and that's not a bad thing, okay? A new me isn't a bad thing because it comes with a lot of wisdom too. But I want to talk about, introduce the 7 stages of grief. Now, initially, when Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came out with the stages of grief, it was groundbreaking stuff, groundbreaking information, because nobody had ever done it before. And she does amazing work around grief. But as with all things, as we progress through an understanding, so we have we identify things, and then we go, okay, so how do we learn from that, the things that we've identified, and then we grow it, okay? So now we have 7 stages of grief because it's been expanded upon in order to make it more understanding as well. So when it happens, so let's just take the simplest one that we could probably all relate to is moving house. And especially if you live overseas, you probably have even moved states as well. In Australia, we don't tend to move states a lot, simply because we're already far apart and we don't have, our states aren't as populated by a long shot as yours, so we don't just move across the state line. Us moving across the state line is usually, like if you went from Sydney to Brisbane, it's at least a 12-hour car drive. So it's significant. You really do pack up your life and you really do move away. If you've moved overseas, or even if you have moved overseas, a lot of Australians like to go and live in America, and Americans actually love to come here because our lifestyle here is more laid back. It's not as full on. So, but if you've moved interstate, then have a look at, the stresses you went through. All the abuses are internally life-changing as well. But first of all, we're going to have shock and denial, and that can be really hard. Like, I'm in shock that I'm moving, and, you're moving away from everyone and everything you know. So there is going to be shock and denial there, whether we like it or not. And if we have a major traumatic event, it's hard to wrap our head around. So if you look at the shock and denial as it's hard to wrap our head around, even if we're moving interstate for a job, oh, I'm so sorry. It can feel good, but our mind is still going to have a hard time wrapping around it, okay? So then we go through pain and guilt. I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people that have family that certainly make them feel guilty for moving away. Fortunately, mine didn't, because 2 years later, every member of my family moved up here. But nevertheless, because I moved from Sydney up to Brisbane. So, and the pain of leaving everyone and everything you know behind. And we've got to be aware in our hearts that that's happening too. It's quite normal that we're really sad that we're leaving behind people we know. But even though our mind's going, yes, I want to be there, I want to do this, it's still going to be challenging, and those emotions will come up for you. the anger and bargaining. Oh my goodness. If you've ever done it, you know exactly what I mean by the anger and bargaining. And you go to and forth. It's like having a tennis match in your head with bargaining, going back and forth, if this, if that, you know. It's got to be gone through, got to be worked through, so you can get your head around what you are doing, reaffirm from your soul level what you are doing and why it's good for you, and, you know, leave the bargaining behind. But it takes time. Journal. Always journal. Get it out. If you haven't got friends in your new state yet, journal it. Get it out. And always remember, phones have journal apps with locks, with keypad locks. Use them. Use everything at your fingertips that you can. Depression, reflection and loneliness. Nobody wants to go through this stage. And look, people with mental health challenges, they can feel a lot of this depression, reflection and loneliness. But if you work back through the steps that we've just talked about, you can see where it's coming from as well. All right? And it doesn't have to be that way. Then we get to the upward turn. So whatever you do, don't get stuck in the depression, reflection and loneliness. The upward turn is when you start to take action, how you want to turn things around, how you're going to look at developing and rebuilding a better you, okay? Because that's what we're here for, to build a better you. And then we go through the reconstruction and working through. So even through the working through, we have the reflection is, who was I? Who am I today? Where do I want to go? Okay? Looking at who you're developing into as a person, all right? That level of awareness is really good to have, all right? And why is that good to have? It's good to have because when you know where you're going, you can see what's stopping you from getting there, okay? And is there something that I need to learn more about, okay? So I learned about codependence, look, I can't tell you how many years ago now. It was a long time ago. And the book I read was by the lady who, like Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Pia Mellody actually defined codependence, like put it all down in words. And now I found another codependence workbook that I've purchased this morning to work through, because now they've expanded and come to understand codependence even more. So always don't ever be afraid to revisit things in order to learn more, okay? Because there's always more to learn. Having a teachable heart is a good thing. And then acceptance and hope. And sometimes we fight against the acceptance because it's like, if I accept my situation, how can I have hope? But you've got to flip it around. There's an acceptance of, I've come through this. I've come through this really, really hard journey. And now I have hope, not only that I could do a traumatic situation again, but I have hope for a whole new me and a whole new life. And that's hard to put into words because you experience it from deep within. So deeper than heart level, you have hope for this brand new life that you're building, okay? And look at it like a house, all right? So when you see a house go up, if you've not ever seen one, you can just watch a quick video. But when you see a house go up, the first thing that goes in is all the plumbing underneath. So they dig all the trenches and they put all the plumbing in and get it all ready. And all the wire mesh. Oh, this is in Australia, by the way. We don't have basements here. Totally different house planning. And we don't have basements because we don't get your winters, okay? So we don't need to have our hot water system inside. Our hot water systems are outside. And everything else here, like the gas, can be outside, etc., because there's no need for a basement and it doesn't get that cold. We do have cold winters down south, but everything outside is still fine, as far as I know. I can't think of anything. Anyhow, so back to building the house. So this is rebuilding you. So you've got the foundation and you'll see the pipes go in and then they pour the concrete, okay? The slab, we call it a slab here, but it's concrete on which all the walls, the framework go up. So as you're going through this process, this is what you're doing internally. You're building a new framework, and then all the brickwork will go up, and then they do all the internal walls and the roof and things like that. And this is what, as you go through every step of rebuilding your life from trauma, you're building a brand new you in that matter. You're putting it all into you, rebuilding, redefining. Actually, instead of just a house that goes up, you get to redesign you as you go along as well, okay? You come out of it with a new strength and a new joy and a new appreciation. I haven't got this down. A new appreciation for life and all the possibilities it holds as well, because you've been through these experiences and you're building a better you. And every experience that we have stretches us a bit more, and so we build another story, okay? And I meant story as in S-T-O-R-E-Y, but we actually build a new story, S-T-O-R-Y, as well. And that helps other people to relate to our story. We won't go there. There's so many stories I've got, but our stories help people understand that we've been through these traumatic experiences as well, that they can relate to us. So not just moving house, but even in our families, when we've been through so much dysfunction and heartbreak and hurt and lack of understanding and the toxicity and the drama, people go, yeah, I can see that you've been through that too, because you have that depth to you now, okay? Now, for us though, we've got to learn not to paper over things. We come out of it with warts and wisdom and all added into a daily dash of courage, okay? Now, it does take time to get to feeling comfortable with the warts and all and the wisdom that comes with it too. So don't rush it. It's like, am I safe? Now, remember, because when we've got mental health challenges too, our brain's always going to go, am I safe to even mention that this has happened to me? I've found over time that I do things more quietly, so I don't go around making big announcements. It's just, yeah, this is what happened to me too, so I understand, I can see what's happening for you at this time. And I want to close today with this beautiful quote by a very beautiful lady. She's written a number of books. Her name's Lisa Unger. So feel free to look her up and look into her books. And you can even look online for her quotes, and they really touch your heart and soul. And she says, hope is good. Without it, well, you do the math. But hope has to be like a prayer, putting it out there to something more powerful than yourself. And this is what we do all through processing our trauma, okay? We keep hope alive and alight in our hearts and souls, hope that all the answers come to us, and as we go through our journey, more answers will come to us if we're open to them, if we're open to the learning and open to a deeper understanding of ourselves. And as we do this, our path unfolds not just for us feeling fulfilled, but in order for us to help others in whatever area that is in. Bless you all for being here today and watching. Thank you so much. If you know other people that are silently suffering from trauma, please feel free to share the video. I try to keep them short and succinct so it doesn't take up too much of your time. But I want you to remember there are millions who are suffering in silence, and we all do our one bit to just make somebody else's life easier by sharing not just my videos but other information that you never know catches someone's eye and they send thanks because they appreciate that you've had the courage to share what they're not ready to yet, because fear still is crippling their life. Bless you all. Have the most wonderful, wonderful day if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. And if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, do some journaling tonight and get some good sleep. And I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same bat channel, and I'll see you then. Bye for now.